If you're scaling your business, you will quickly realize there are 1,000 things you could be doing, but only a handful will help you grow fast. Your product and ops are important, but if you can't get in front of your target audience and make them care, forget it. You're f***ed. Marketing and distribution quite literally determine whether you live or die. AI has made the how-to easy. It can build funnels and design campaigns to a certain degree. So the how-to isn't the bottleneck. The real advantage sits underneath, in the layer most people ignore. I've spent 13 years building marketing systems that have generated millions in revenue, and here's what's made the biggest difference. Understanding the why behind what works, not just copying the what. By the end of this video, you will learn 3 core principles that help you sell almost anything, predict winners before you test them, and build systems that scale instead of one-off campaigns. The era of the creative marketer is ending, and the era of the marketing engineer is beginning. When everyone has access to the same tools, those who win are the ones who understand the psychology underneath the tactics. If we haven't met before, I'm Raoul Plickert. I've built a portfolio of marketing-related products to help you think like a marketing architect without years of trial and error. Marketing MBA, where we have trained more than 400 marketers and generated over 200 million in client revenue. And with Copecard, we have processed over 1.3 billion for digital education businesses across 4 continents. In this video, I'm going to walk you through the 3 core areas. First, mindset, the mental models that let you see what others miss. Second, marketing fundamentals, the tested psychology and systems that make people buy. And third, engineering fundamentals, becoming the architect who built $10 million systems, not 10K campaigns. So here's the subpar marketer with the top 1%. Before we get into it, let me break down what you shouldn't do. The subpar marketer doesn't understand why things work. They can build a funnel or run ads, but they don't understand the belief systems or the identity shifts that determine every purchase decision. What this looks like: communication failure. They talk about features and benefits instead of identity and beliefs. They're tactical obsessed because they focus on posting more content or running more ads without understanding the psychology behind someone would care. And then copy-paste thinking. They copy what worked for someone else without understanding why it worked for that specific audience. On the other hand, a high-performing marketer sees the belief and identifies underneath buying decisions. They know what keeps their buyer up at 3 a.m. They design messages that speak to identity and build systems that get better over time. This is a shift the rest of the video is about. Moving from how to understanding the mental models to fundamentals and systems that sit underneath everything. Let's go to section 1. Mindset, the foundation everything builds on. The first principle is mindset. Without the right mental models, you will stay stuck in random testing instead of growing. We will look at 4 core habits: ownership, growth, creativity, and curiosity. Ownership. It's never the asset's fault. You simply designed something that did not match the way your customer think. Instead of thinking the ad didn't work, think about what you might have misunderstood about your target market and set time aside to research. When you own the outcome, every result becomes a lesson about psychology. Again, if the numbers are bad, look deeper into the beliefs, the timing, and the context. Growth. A fixed mindset is black and white. This works or doesn't work. A growth mindset is seeing every outcome as a data point to something better. Instead of jumping from tactic to tactic, you ask what the result is teaching you actually. Did you discover a message that creates resistance? Did you find an audience segment that responds better to a certain angle? This is what will help you learn fast from both your failures and wins. Next is creativity. Most marketers see creativity as copying what works for others with small tweaks. The top 1% treat creativity with precision, asking what works specifically for their audience's belief and psychology. It starts with understanding the inner world of the buyer. Once you know the fears, ambitions, and self-image, you can create messages and formats that feel custom-built for them, even if the structure is simple. The final mindset model is curiosity, going deeper and asking why something works for who and under which conditions. It will help you learn and become a better marketer across the board automatically. If an ad performs, you can break it down and assess whether it was a promise, proof, context, or timing that made it. If it flops, analyze and write down reasons about what went wrong. Develop curiosity about the layers underneath and become obsessed with human psychology. That's the TLDR. Next section is marketing fundamentals. Psychology. The fundamentals live in 2 domains: psychology and distribution. First of all is the customer understanding. Most marketers think they understand their ideal client because they know demographics. He is 32, lives in London, works in tech. That's a start, but it tells you very little about how he makes decisions. Austrian psychologist Alfred Adler pointed out that people often keep their problems because those problems serve a secret goal. Usually it is safety, comfort, or avoiding pressure. The problem is painful, but it protects them from something that feels even more uncomfortable. Your buyer does the same. On paper, they say they want growth, but in practice, they might be going for safety. An example: I'm not investing in this software because I want to avoid risk, so I stay skeptical and hold on to my cash. The marketer's job in this case is to sign a better goal and give them a new story that makes sense of that goal. Great marketing sells a new identity by installing a new goal. You can think of this as a teleological shift. In simple terms, giving the prospect a new end and goal and a story that makes their decision feel like a smart move, like their own idea. So here's what you have to do. Identify the old goal. First, you map the secret goal that is driving the choices. Maybe it's safety or comfort. You uncover this through real customer research. You listen to sales calls, read emails, review comments, and write down the phrases people use to justify staying where they are. Write that down as a simple formula. Because I want X, I behave like Y. Second is disrupt the meaning of the old goal. Next, you want to show that the current goal is not neutral and might even be the cause of their pain. You think you're being safe by waiting, but in reality you're guaranteeing stagnation. The skepticism that feels protective is the same skepticism that keeps you stuck. It's not about personal attacking. The aim is to help them recognize that their logic is producing the current reality. Now you provide the resonating teleology. You project a new, more compelling end state, a new final goal that is strong enough to compete with the old one. For instance, your goal is no longer safety, it's freedom. You create a clear gap between the current identity and the possible identity. Current state is someone who optimizes for protection. The desired state is someone who optimizes for capability and freedom. That gap needs to feel both honest and reachable. If it's too small, there is no energy. If it's too large, it feels fake. Then you assign the final goal. Once a new goal is set, you give them the logic that connects that goal to your offer across the whole journey. And here is where copywriting comes into play. Copywriting and knowing how to communicate with your ICP is everything. Because understanding psychological triggers at the deepest level, using words to shape and create an emotional response is what matters most. And this is not something that you get out of ChatGPT, because ChatGPT is usually very fluff, very AI linguistic. Here is what makes a good copy versus a bad copy. First of all, good copy has a very strong promise. Then it has the description of the unique mechanism and a lot of proof, emotional driven benefits instead of describing just features. So the prospect knows basically by reading or listening how that transformation will feel like. Bad copy, on the other hand, is very abstract, not specific enough, not using the terminology or the metaphors, stories of your target audience, and it's generic. Good copy not only sells, but also educates and provides a new insights. It might feel controversial, on the other hand, as well. Bad copy sounds always too good to be true. By this, by that, here's why. It offers maybe too much guarantees, and that is what ChatGPT usually offers. Next, let's go to the offers. Once you understand the new goal and identity your buyer is moving towards, the offer becomes a bridge. You need to make the value of crossing that bridge feel so clear and specific that the price almost becomes irrelevant. Most weak offers fail at this level. The promise is vague, the problem is generic, or the price is too high, the benefit is not visible. Strong offers do the opposite. They make the buyer feel understood, they give a precise outcome, and they frame the price as a small cost compared to the cost of staying stuck. Think of it in 3 phases. Build the offer from the new goal. First, you need to understand what your customer's problem really is. Your offer solves this problem in detail. Second, you make the outcome clear as day. The buyer must see a clear before and after that matches their situation. Third, stack the perceived value. There have to be clear deliverables, support, and timeframes. In the end, the offer should give the prospect confidence, clarity, and the feeling of being in control instead of guessing. If your offer is a black box, it will never, ever sell. Now that the offer is clear, you need a way to get in front of the people that respects how the prospect changes their mind. This is where distribution and acquisition come in. Research, beliefs, self-image, new insight, and the way out. This is a good system to keep in your head while you design your funnel, your content, and your ads. It will help you move someone from their current identity to their desired identity, one belief at a time. So let's talk about the customer journey. We look at beliefs. You extract what they think is true. For example, agencies are a cost, this software will not work, or I can do it myself. The self-image, you define who they feel they are now and who they want to be. Freelancer versus agency owner, employee versus entrepreneur. What you're looking for is a new insight, a cleaner model for why they're not moving, the rationale behind their constraint. And the way out is you present your method as the most natural path for the person they want to become. From skeptical to curious to interested to committed. A good question to pose in this case is, does this step in the journey break the right belief and replace it with a better one? If you ask this question alone, you should be ahead of your competition by a mile. Let's move next to the platform dynamics. Why does content that works on LinkedIn fail on Instagram? Platform dynamics is understanding where people's heads are, not just where to post. The psychology stays the same across platform, but the expression changes. Instead of working out which channel is the best, think about alignment. On LinkedIn, people are in a more professional, status-driven context. They act, at least, that they're serious about something meaningful. On Instagram, TikTok, you learn more into emotion and lifestyle, more visual, responding to what it feels like to live the identity they want. And on YouTube, people are willing to sit with a full narrative where you take them from old goal to new. So regarding content, you make it your mission to build topical authority with a library of content that serves at each stage of the buyer journey. Think about like a narrative. You want to design a whole coherent narrative. There's content designed to create awareness of the problem. Then there's content designed to educate on the solution. Then there's content designed to show proof of the transformation via case studies, for example. Then we move on to paid. Paid ads are a powerful strategy to amplify and complement organic. You take the pieces that already resonate and you place them in front of more of the right people in a structured way with clear pathways to the endpoint. If message shifts already beliefs in organic, then amplify it with paid. This last part is where all of that turns into systems. So you're not rebuilding your marketing from scratch each time. We need to shift our perspective from a one-time effort to producing a set of workflows that keep producing opportunities, learning, and cash without needing our full creative energy every single day. This is where good marketers turn into marketing architects. First, they think in systems and workflows, building repeatable systems that work out without huge amounts of effort from you each time. So how we typically do things at Marketing MBA. First, we audit the brand, we spot the bottlenecks, we map the real customer journey, we do more of what works, we're doubling down on channels, and then we connect it strategically with content, offers, in a clear pipeline. Only then comes experimenting. Because the purpose of a test is to learn why something works or fails, so you can hard code the learning into the system. Let me give you an example. Like the question, will this headline work, is not a useful question. Think more of, does my audience respond more to financial outcomes or identity outcomes? When it comes to test, it's always important to test big, not small, not a color, but like a big section. Like the most important thing to test always is the head section, everything above the scroll. If version A wins, which belief did it reinforce or challenge? If it underperforms, which assumption about the audience was likely wrong? You extract that principle and turn the learning into a rule for future assets. Then you feed the learning back into the system. You update templates, briefing docs, and SOPs. Technology and AI are leverage. The biggest opportunities for 2026 and beyond will enable a small team to operate like a mid-market company with 50+ headcount. The goal for me is to systemize up to 80% of the process. So let me give you an example how we do it internally. For the last 12 months, I developed my own AI, which does now in 40 minutes what took me with a team of 7 people in 2022, 8 to 10 full weeks. It does the research, the strategy, and creates every single assets along the customer journey in one flow within 40 minutes while staying completely coherent, without hallucination, and doing it on brand. And by the way, it does it even better than any human could do, because there are more than 50 frameworks that are interconnected, dependent of each other, and AI does simply a better job of connecting and respecting these things because of the cognitive load than a human ever could do. So the results of that are also pretty crazy. And this is one whole workflow consisting of more than 50 frameworks. Every framework is an SOP with multiple action steps to do. Now this AI has MCP connectors, so it automatically can be connected into Figma and work with our design system. Now when we throw this AI on, it already builds the landing page, it already builds the email series, the nurturing series, the ads, the VSL, the lead magnet copy, the ad copy, webinars, and everything in 40 minutes. So that's an example how AI can amplify the whole process, but you still need to understand the why behind how each framework works in order to spot either gaps, because not always everything is perfect, and also to learn and adapt on what was just created, so you can understand where performance might be coming from in the future, or where performance is missing and why it's missing. Otherwise, you're like a junior coder in AI right now, where we see they use AI to create a lot of code, but still has a lot of mistakes, or sometimes it has mistakes, and when these mistakes happen, nobody knows where these are coming from. So there's no shortcut. You have to learn and understand how this works. Only then you can amplify it with AI. Another example, AI can handle basic research and summaries. I think most of you are doing that already. It helps you turn a winning format into 10 new controlled variations for testing. It surfaces patterns in data, so you see which hooks, angles, and formats overperform. Pressmaster, on the other hand, is a good example of this in practice. It helps you to publish content without spending hours writing. You can turn a conversation into weeks of platform-optimized content, all based on your own thinking patterns. The tool captures how you talk and decide, then turns it into outlines, posts, and scripts that sounds like you at scale. And if this sounds interesting, head over to Pressmaster AI or just check the description of this video. Next is numbers. This last piece about taking full ownership for growth in a very practical way. If you want to think like a marketing architect, you stop treating results as random and assume there's a reason in the data, and you decide it is your job to find it. Keep a simple scoreboard for every campaign or content stream. A change log is also what I recommend. Be on top with monitoring, hooks, angles, offers, the traffic source, views, watch time, click-through rate, leads, and sales. You have to know your data. You have to own this data. From there, it's a game of optimization. You have to look through the start to finish process and identifying the constraints. If people view the ad but do not click, then the problem is in the ad itself, because your ad has a single purpose of selling the click. Then you're not selling the click. You're providing either too much or too less information and not enough curiosity. If they click but do not buy, the problem sits on the belief shifts around the landing page and the sales process. Most often, it's not specific enough to their core needs and their aspirational identity. And here's the kicker. Speed is king in all business pursuits. You will win more often if you test more often. You learn from the data and ship the next iteration based on that. But do it fast. Do not be discouraged by bad results. They are prompt to think harder. Keep asking yourself why something did not work until you can write the exact reason down in one clear sentence. You do the same for winners, so you can repeat them on purpose. So here you have it. 3 principles that separate good marketers from the top 1%. Let's recap quickly. First principle was mindset. You have to be curious about why things are working. Second principle is marketing fundamentals. You're understanding beliefs and identity shifts over demographics and just tactics. Third is engineering fundamentals. You understand how to dissect problems and build solutions and whole systems out of that. Now, if you want help turning these 3 principles into an operating system for your business, that is exactly what we do inside of Marketing MBA. We take ideas like mindset, fundamentals, and engineering and turn them into projects. You get the frameworks, the templates, and the feedback you need to build a growth engine instead of one-off campaigns. If you're serious about becoming a marketing engineer, click the link in the description, check out the details for Marketing MBA, and see if it is a fit for where you are right now.